Hello everyone, my name is Ian, the part-time Dungeon Master, and welcome back to another D20 Sundays. As always, if you'd like to support the channel, there's some links down below to merchandise, coffee, and Streamlabs. I don't know if the Streamlab ones work, but there's ways you can support me. Anyways, on to today's episode, which is essentially, just because you rolled a Nat20 does not mean you get what you want. Now, for me to clarify this, it's pretty much this. Say you're trying to convince a king to give you his crown, and you don't have him at sword length. You don't have him at your mercy, but you really want that crown. So you're like, I roll persuasion to make him give me his crown. Boom, Nat 20. I want that crown. No, it doesn't work like that. Just because you rolled a natural 20 and trying to convince him to give you his crown doesn't mean he's just going to be like, okay, here you go. No. It doesn't work like that, because just because your words are very persuasive, just because you succeeded in persuading him, doesn't mean that he's going to do it. And part of the reason is being, why on earth would he give you his crown? He is the king of the land. Who are you? It's some adventurer that, wandered into his lands and did work for him? Are you some sort of noble person? No, then he's not going to give you the crown. He might be moved by your words and think that, you have such great aspirations. I can at least throw a banquet in your honor and, where you'll get to be able to rub elbows with a lot of the nobles and, prove your worth and your importance to them, but I'm not giving you the crown. And this is something else that I think Dungeon Masters should definitely try and incorporate into their games as well, is the fact that just because you rolled a Nat 20 does not mean that you fully succeed to the way you want. You might succeed, but it not be completely the way you wanted. You might have wanted his crown, but instead of getting his crown, you got a minor title in his court. It's not the crown, but you did get something. And I know some people would be like, oh, that's not how it works. I don't care. The reason being is because if you just let your players run around doing whatever, for whatever reason, and letting the dice say, okay, Nat 20, they automatically get it no matter what, you're going to have a bad time, because I can guarantee you some players are going to try at every given moment to essentially swindle someone out of their entire life, all because they rolled a Nat 20. No. It just doesn't work that way. It should not work that way. So I implore my fellow Dungeon Masters to, first off, set down some ground rules, such as a barbarian should not be using thieves' tools. You're not really that dexterous enough to be doing that. Sure, they could be like, oh, I've got a high dexterity. No, what I mean is that, say, a barbarian wants to pick a lock. Well, he's most likely not going to have the appropriate skills or tools to do that. Sure, he can break a lock, but picking it, not so much. That's more of the rogue's doing. So, just because the barbarian's like, well, I'm going to pick the lock, so I rolled and I got a Nat 20. Plus my, +2 or +3 modifier I got to it. I picked that lock good. I would say, yeah, you got the lock open. You didn't pick it, though. You accidentally broke the lock, and now the door just doesn't really close right. Yeah, it seems kind of unfair in the sense that, hey, I wanted to pick the lock. Well, yeah, but the problem is you were not proficient in lock picking. You're proficient at lock breaking. And not to mention, when it comes to, say, two player characters are trying to do the exact same thing. Who should win? The guy who rolls a Nat 20 but has, say, a -1 at a skill, such as, persuasion, or the guy who rolled a 19 plus 5 for his persuasion skill? Honestly, I think the guy who rolled, a 19 plus 5 should win. One, because his number's higher. Yes, the other person got a Nat 20, but the other guy got over 20, and then some. So, balancing it between the two is going to be something that you have to find out as a dungeon master on your own and how to work it with your party. But just because you get a natural 20 doesn't mean that you should automatically fully succeed to the extent that you wanted. It should be you succeed within a reasonable amount. If your goal is too far out, then you should be at least get a good ways there. Such as if you fire a short bow at a target that is over like 2 times the maximum distance of a short bow, just because you rolled a nat 20, that arrow is not getting there. It's not feasible for that arrow to get there. That's what I'm saying. If it is within reasonable possibility that it actually will succeed, then a nat 20 will make it succeed. But if it's beyond that reasonable possibility, well, I don't think it's happening then. If you want to convince a king to give you his crown, then good luck with that. Just because you rolled a nat 20 on your first meeting with him, he might be like, charmed at you, like, oh, how charming, you think you can hold the crown. No. I'll give you the title of a lesser noble because you did some service for my kingdom, but you're not getting the crown. Things like that. Anyways, I'll catch you in the next episode. Oh, speaking of which, if you want to decide what my next episode is, tell me down below. What do you think I should cover in my next D20 Sundays or the next Dungeon Master's Corner? Anyways, catch you laters.